Hello and welcome to your astrological forecast for the week beginning the 22nd of April 2015. Well, every once in a while the universe takes a little bit of a breather, just as you watch the ocean and you'll see the tide come in, and sometimes you'll see that tide coming in pretty strongly and then you'll see it recede. Well, occasionally the energy just recedes a little bit, and it's by no means a light and fluffy week. I'm not necessarily saying that, but it's by no means as intense as it has been for the last couple of weeks. We need to talk today about truth. Let's talk about truth, okay? So if you're not going to be true to yourself, first of all, how can you expect anybody else to do so? If you're not going to be true to yourself, how can you really blame somebody else for the problems that you're facing in your life? If you're not going to be true to yourself, who can you turn to in life, right? You know, if you look at it, sure, I don't know your beliefs, but if you believe in immortality of the soul, you're going to be with your soul for eternity, right? And you're going to be hopefully buddy-buddy with it. If you're not buddy-buddy with it, well, then you're going to have some problems over the course of your life. And we don't want those problems, do we? We want the good times and the happy times, right? And those come through being true to yourself, being real to yourself, not hiding something from yourself. Why am I saying this? Well, you're coming out of a particular phase of development where you're perhaps having to let go of something from the past, right? And you've decided to be more committed to yourself. And through being more committed to yourself, well, you're beginning to see some results, but there's a slow evolution that's taking place over the course of the week. And sure, as it's going on, you know, I'm obviously going to tell you the truth about the situation. I would do nothing but that, even if it sometimes seems a little bit brutal, but it's actually not quite so bad. Let's put it this way. The truth is only brutal if you are afraid of, if you're hiding from it, right? If you accept it, well, sure, you know, it can feel a little bit difficult at first, but then it brings the changes that you need. And that's really what it's about, right? Is bringing the changes that you need in order to grow, right? And there is a very big potential for you to create some very positive changes in your life this week, but you're going to have to stay committed. And that's what the astrological aspects are saying. So without any further ado, why don't we go in and take a look at the astrological aspects? Starting off on the 22nd, we've got a harmonious aspect between Mercury and Pluto, a trine, another trine aspect. We just had Mars trining Pluto recently, and now we've got Mercury following on the heels of Mars, and it's also trining Pluto. At the same time that that's happening, you've got Venus forming a harmonious angle with Jupiter. That will become exact on the same day, on the 22nd. Now let's talk about Mercury and Pluto first. And let's also talk, I know I've done so several times, but let's touch on it again just in case others haven't seen the other videos. A trine aspect is a harmonious angle between two planets or two sets of planets. It means those planets are working in harmony with each other. But dependent upon the planets involved, it may not necessarily feel so wonderful or harmonious to you. I should stress that. But it's going to really bring some positive changes for you. It's very empowering. But it all depends on how the planet puts forward its agenda. And Pluto puts forth a very strong, powerful agenda. It's a no-holds-barred approach. When it comes to Pluto, he's going to make you take a look at something, right? So whenever you have Mercury and Pluto trining each other, well, you know, you're going to have to face some facts. There may be some difficult truths that you don't want to take a look at, right? And as we're dealing with Mercury being in the nakshatra or lunar mansion of Bharani, we need to touch on Bharani a little bit. Now, Bharani energy, Bharani is symbolized by the birth canal. So it always is going to symbolize a new birth coming on the heels of something old that you're having to let go of. It's a very profound shift that takes place with Bharani. As any birth is always going to involve labor pains, well, such is the case with anything that's associated with Bharani, but also the concept of restraint comes into focus when you're talking about Bharani energy. Now, Pluto is in Purva Ashadha. Purva Ashadha, as we've spoken about in many of the videos that have involved Pluto, Purva Ashadha is going to deal with peeling away at layers of the ego so that you get to what's real inside of you. And every time there's a Pluto aspect, as Pluto's in Purva Ashadha, it's going to take you to a deeper and deeper layer that's associated with that. And in accordance with that, what's going to happen is Mercury over in Bharani is going to make you stay committed towards what you really believe in. But as that happens, well, there may be a little bit of difficulty having to face some vulnerabilities and sure, maybe even a hint of sadness. But the really positive news that goes on in association with that is at the same time, you've got Venus in Gemini and Rohini, forming a harmonious alignment with Jupiter in Ashadha and Leo. So basically, Venus in Rohini, let's talk a little bit about Rohini. Rohini is about growth, fostering evolution even. That's probably a better way to put it, right? So Venus is going to bring some healing in association with this Mercury-Pluto trine. It's good that these two aspects are happening on the same day. Otherwise, it might be a little bit more intense with the Mercury-Pluto side of things. Jupiter in Ashadha stands the capacity to take you very deeply into your feelings so that you can expand and grow beyond a previous way of looking at things, a previous way of understanding things, and really begin to heal some of the difficulties that you may have recently experienced. Really wonderful new moon last week that really helped to move things on for a lot of people, and that this is continuing that energy and moving forward, taking a look at your feelings and allowing yourself to grow in accordance with the feelings that you're feeling, healing the sadness that you might feel at the past, and also feeling that deep sense of conviction and that deep sense of commitment to the path ahead. Now, on the 23rd, I'm going to bring up my change the day tool here so that we can change the days, because that's what we do with change the day tools, is we change days. It makes sense, doesn't it? Don't mind me, I just blabble a lot. Okay, here we go. On the 23rd, we've got Mars conjuncting Mercury, right? You've got Mars. Mars is very passionate, as you may know. I always like to speak of Mars as being like the cosmic surgeon and also like a bit of a cosmic purgative. He purges things from our system, right? And when you have Mercury and Mars conjuncting each other, you've got penetrating insight that can really help to move a situation on. That penetrating insight, the way that's going to manifest is through commitment, right? There's very powerful Taurian energy that's associated with this. Both Mercury and Mars are in Taurus, and they're also in a section of Bharani that is connected with Taurus as well. And so that's creating a very deep sense of commitment and loyalty. But that sense of commitment and loyalty is to one's self. And it's good that you're in that space because, well, the next couple of days that follow, they bring a little bit of tension. Not huge tension because we're talking about minor aspects, but starting with the 24th. On the 24th, you've got the sun in Ashwini forming what's known as a quincunx with Saturn. Now, quincunx is a minor aspect. Feel it for a couple of days and then it moves on, and it's more an aspect of irritation. And the way that this is going to manifest, as the sun is in Ashwini, and Saturn is in Anuradha. Let's bring up the magnifying glass. Let's talk a little bit more deeply about Ashwini. Ashwini is very swift-moving energy. It's also associated with the Ashwins, which are the divine physicians. So again, you've got the energy of healing, the energy of very quick movement, the ability to change things rather quickly, but that's just a potential because we're dealing with Saturn, and Saturn's going to create some resistance that's there, right? So basically, there's the ability to see something on a deep level, following on the heels of the Mercury-Pluto trine and Venus sextiling Jupiter. There's the ability to see something on a very deep level. But then you've got Saturn down here, strong, firm, committed Saturn, who feels a deep sense of loyalty and ethics to something that has been in the past, and he's going to stand by it come what may. Well, Saturn's going to have to get over it. Let's just put it that way, right? That's something that's going to help you, is let Saturn get over it. Now is not the time, as I was saying in the recent lunar scope for the day, now is not the time for looking back. Now is the time for moving forward, right? But you've got to feel what you feel, and you've got to honor those feelings as they come up. And that's part of the grieving process. When we move on from something or someone, we have to grieve, and we go through that feeling of loyalty that we feel to the person. But what we recognize is things are constantly undergoing transformation, right? And sometimes the best way to be loyal to something or to someone is to let go of it. And that's really how it tends to work sometimes, right? So then we move on to the 25th. Bear with me for a moment, please, if you will. And what do we have on the 25th? We've got another tense aspect, but a minor aspect between Venus and Pluto. Again, we have what is known as a quincunx. There's the ability to see something, to see a potential solution, something that seems tantalizing, because we're dealing with Venus in Mrigashira, and that's very desire-oriented energy. But that desire-oriented energy is wanting to, well, somewhat overturn the apple cart in order to achieve what it's needing to achieve. And so it's thinking of being flexible and giving into a situation where perhaps there is a sense of devotion or loyalty, as we were saying before. But Pluto over here is saying, you know what, if you go down that road, you're not going to like what happens, right? Because my job is to take you down whenever you're going wrong so that eventually you go right, you know? And that's the whole thing, is everybody hates Pluto aspects, but what does Pluto do? He empowers us. He helps us. He gives us the strength to move forward. But first, he wants to take you deeply into something. And what is he wanting to take you deeply into in this particular case? He's wanting to take you deeply into yourself so that you're true to yourself, so that you're honest with yourself. And you can't be honest with another unless you're honest with yourself. Now we're going to move on to the last major aspect of the week, which is on the 26th. And what do we have going on the 26th? Well, we've got a harmonious angle that's going to take place between Venus and Uranus. So Venus and Uranus. So basically Uranus in Revati, Revati energy, pardon me, is, as I've discussed before, an energy that's like being in a state of limbo. You know that you're going somewhere, but you're not quite sure how you're getting there or how it's happening, and the details just haven't fallen into place yet, right? And it's perhaps good that you've had this resistance for the last couple of days that I was mentioning, because that's going to help you to go over the details to an extent that Venus is going to allow things to heal and really allow the wheels to be set in motion, but in somewhat of an unexpected manner, because we are dealing with Uranus. And if you had to give a mythological equivalent of Uranus, even though Uranus is from mythology, I like using the Vedic pantheon, and it would be like Brahma. Brahma wants to come in and create something new, right? But first, we have to kind of get the details of this new form that's coming into being. And once that we get the details of that new form that's coming into being, well, then Venus is really ready to not let its desires become attached like it was to the Plutonian, during the Plutonian aspect we were talking about the day before, but instead allows one to move on. And that's a very powerful thing and a very good thing, right? A lot of very strong Venusian energy this week, because you've got a lot of aspects from planets in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus, and so Venus is going to support that. And you've also got Pluto in Purva, Ashadha, which is also ruled by Venus. Your primary relationship, it's to you. right? You make that primary relationship to you, all your other relationships are going to work out as being much more healthy. You look out for yourself first, and I'm not talking about in a selfish manner, because yes, we should all be selfless, but hey, how can you truly be selfless to somebody else and give them a lot if there's less of you to give? Right? So you got to take care of yourself first with that. And the best way to take care of yourself is be honest with yourself, be true to yourself, and recognize that this is your life to be lived in the way that you wish to live it, even if you want to screw up every now and then. Hey, what the hell, we all do. Just as long as you don't keep blaming yourself. Be honest with yourself when you make those mistakes. That's the best way to deal with mistakes. Take those mistakes forward. Don't keep making them again by taking them forward. That's not what I mean. But take the wisdom that you gain from those mistakes forward so that you don't keep making the same mistakes again. If you face your shortcomings, I should say, because they're not really shortcomings, they're just part of who you are, and you're meant to go through these challenges that you're experiencing. If you take your shortcomings with a grain of salt, and if you face them with a very strong dose of truth and a willingness to look at yourself, well, hey, that's being honest with yourself, right? And if you're honest to yourself in this moment, isn't there something that you want to let go of so that you can have something better come into your life? Well, now is the moment. As the old saying goes, today is the first day of the rest of your life. So take that first step forward with strength and with grace. If you'd like to know more about how the week's aspects will affect you personally, I do offer a vast range of astrological services that are available through my website. There's a link down below on this video, unless you've closed it already. And if you have, there is a link further down in the description area. You can click on that, and it will take you to my website and my astrological services page, where I offer person-to-person consultations, personalized video reports, which are recorded as a monologue, and also written reports. If you want an interactive consultation, that's going to be the person-to-person consultation. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube page yet, you might consider doing so. That way you'll be updated every time I release a new video. That's going to do it for this week's astrological forecast. Until next time, I do hope that you'll take the very best care of yourself. Bye now.